Good day, everyone. Good day. And I have the beautiful Leslie Tao with us today. She is a very accomplished woman in more ways than one. And I see her like women do this anyway, superwoman with a family. So not only is she juggling business, but family, and women do this very well. But I'm going to let Leslie just describe exactly what she does, where she's going, and then we're going to go through the flow to find out what nuggets of gold we can give you today. Leslie, welcome. Nice to see you.
Hello, Eli. I love your deep voice. It's great. It's a voice you want to wake up to, awake everybody up.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, let's hope I don't scare anyone in the meantime.
Hello. Full of energy. Love it.
Right.
So
Okay.
I need a bit of guidance from you. So where should I start? Because
so basically, let's give us where you're at the moment. What do you do with your business, and where are you headed, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. So in business, my main business, I've got a few businesses, but my main source of income, it's from property. So we have a property management business in Cambridge, and we have a lot of units that we manage now. I built the UK business up with my partner when we relocated back, which is at the end of 2018. So it doesn't seem like that long ago, does it?
No, not at all.
No, but it was taking skills and experiences that we learned previously, because we've been in business for a while, and readapting it to the UK. Yeah. So you can, the great thing is, once you have those skills, experiences, and failures, you can readapt it to, to move on in your life to a different business, or this is part of the same business that we've been involved in, but just in a different country. And then a more refined model, because obviously you've made the mistakes that you've had made before, right? And we've also made some along the way, dealt with COVID. So we have a stronghold in Cambridge, and our business on the property side brings in quite a lot of income every month. So we're talking over the years, like at least 7 figures. We're doing between about 200 minimum 1,000 as a gross income every month that's coming in. But obviously there's a lot of expenses going out as well.
That's great. And what exactly in the property business are you doing? Because it's quite an expansive thing to talk about. What exactly are you doing?
Our main business is a subleasing model. So in England, you know it as rent to rent. In America, you know it as arbitrage. But we do own properties as well. So it's a mixture of managing those owned properties, which is a mix of resi and commercial, and also managing and making money off properties that we don't own. So we leverage a lot, but that comes with skills, right? Skills and experience to be able to make a margin off properties that you don't own, and run that well as well.
Well, so now when it comes to the property side of it, it's not as straightforward as people think. So you said you bought skills before you got to this this model with the property model you got here. Now, were those skills related to property, or were those skills related to other things, which I think you previously said that you still brought them along and it was still
so 2 main skills. So we had a similar business in Dubai, which is where I was for 10 years. So we had a rent-to-rent business in Dubai, but with the rent-to-rent business, so the subleasing model. So what that means for people that are not in property is that you don't own the property that you're making money off. You're renting it from a landlord who's agreed and consented for you to run whatever rental model that you want to run from that property. So that's all wrapped up in a contract. And then we've run different types of rental models, and there are different types of subleasing rental models to run. So it's not just a one-trick pony. So we used to do that in Dubai as well. We still do have units there. And so that's one skill that we brought over. And the other skill is I used to be a lawyer before I went into business. So I've obviously been able to use those skills to today. And actually, you and I met at a networking event in London, and I was promoting one of our notarization business even out there. So it's slightly different business from property.
Okay, so you've obviously bought the skills from, I can imagine, obviously within property, there's a lot of paperwork that's going to go in with legalities and etc. So that's helped you hugely. But what about when people are trying to start off in the property business, and obviously you're talking about there's quite a lot to this model. Legalities, it must be difficult for people to get involved with the legalities of things. I mean, how can the person that's trying to start off do this in the most simple and easy way when it comes to the legality? For you, you had a skill set, but for others, how could that help?
Well, there is a lawyer that I work with, so I'm happy to recommend him if anybody wants to have a look at this space. So he will give you some advice on the compliance that you need to get a business like this rent-to-rent property business up and running, and he'll also give you a contract template and be happy to go through it with whoever's interested. So I think that's important. This particular lawyer also does rent-to-rent in Sheffield. So he does, I think he does HMO model, and he does the Airbnb model as well. So short-term rentals. So he's well versed. You want to find a lawyer who really understands what you're doing. Help out, yeah. And
okay, so the fundamental side of it with the property side of it, what's most important when you want to get into the property? What's the most fundamental things for you to start off with, so you don't make any mistakes? So law is one thing. Is there anything else that's going to be taken into consideration at the beginning stage?
I think you've got to really understand your location. So whichever location you've chosen and which rental model you want to implement. Yeah, but I think, to be honest, having knowledge of how you're going to rent your property out, whether you own your property or whether you're going to sublease it, etc., is actually a very important skill.
Yeah, I can see it. Obviously, it's something that you've got to get some experience with. Really, get somebody that knows their stuff before you go into this, right?
Yeah, maybe do some mentoring under somebody who is already in the business before you put any money in. But ultimately, in business, sometimes you lose money as well. Yeah, there's always risks involved, especially if your skills and your experience are not there yet. Yeah, it's very easy to lose money as well, just with anything.
Right. So you was a lawyer before this. Now, for you to go from one extreme to another, you was a lawyer, you wanted to go into property managing. What made you do that? Why property and nothing else?
So this is when we talk about challenges. But firstly, I've always enjoyed property because my family have always done property in Cambridge, so I've had that. But my family do commercial, so they buy and they redevelop, but we tend to keep them as much as we can. So hence we've got a commercial portfolio that we manage, and it's the easiest portfolio, to be honest, to manage the commercial stuff, because when you sign on leases, it's usually for 10 to 20 years. And the tenants look after the property, so it's not that management intensive compared to residential property. Hope that makes sense. Yeah. So I've got the family background already there, but I've always enjoyed property because it seems to be to be honest, compared to running a full-blown business, a lot of people that I know after they've quit their job want to do, I don't know why, but they want to do some sort of food and beverage business. Was a trend in my generation. But that involves a lot more moving parts than property, where you're let's say you acquire the property, whether it's through you buying it or you rent it off someone else, and then you re-rent it out. So so that's not, I don't see property management as that. Not say it's not difficult, but it's not got so many moving parts. You're not counting loads of stock and managing lots of other people. I would say you can streamline the whole business model so it's fairly easy to run.
I get you. The way you talk, though, you make it sound so easy. And I know when it comes to business, it's never easy. But obviously, you've got that experience. But there were points in time where it was really difficult. And it isn't that easy, right?
So actually, to answer your question, the reason why I brought the food and beverage up, so your question was what pushed me into careers, basically. And I had a very nice cushy career, to be honest. I really had a really nice company, an international law firm I was working with, and my bosses and colleagues were super nice. So I was working in Dubai then, so it was like a tax-free income, so all was good. But what pushed me to really move, it was mainly two reasons. One is, so this was one of the biggest challenges in my life, which was I went into business with an ex-partner. Whilst I was working, I didn't know anything about business then, really, as in, I didn't, I wasn't in control of it, but everything was under my name. So that was a bit of a problem when the business started to go wrong. And it was a bakery business in Dubai. It was located in the marina.
Okay.
And so the relationship went a bit sour. That
Okay.
impacted the business relationship. And then I found myself having to deal with loads of debts that the business had incurred.
Ah.
So supply debts, rental debts, it was too much. So I think that was one of the biggest learning curves in my life, because I was working in my job, doing my thing. I had agreed to put my name on these documents, so I was part owner. However, what was coming through, I was lumbered with loads of these debts that were coming through.
Right.
So after a lot of when you're in that position, I think, to be honest, at that age, I was still in my 20s. So I did bury my head in the sand a bit, because it was just overwhelming. You're not in the world of business, and you've only just been, been, let's say, studying and, climbing up the career path. You don't know what to do really in those situations. And you didn't really have a lot of people around me at that point who were in business, if that makes sense, because everybody was a lawyer.
No, no, totally. I totally get that. I mean, that must have been a really difficult time, because you had a few things that you were dealing with. You was the loss of a relationship that was going sour. Plus, it was your really first business that you started to go into, and then you had everything on your shoulders. Now,
Yeah.
that must have been the lowest time to that point in your relationship, be it in business and personal, having to deal with the both. How did you actually get out of that big hole, and what made you climb out and thought there is a way out of this? What happened? Just tell us
So
more about that.
So my dad came for a visit, and I hadn't told my family what had happened, because I found it all very shameful. Like, I didn't want them to worry.
I
But he
get
came
that.
for a visit, and my dad's a businessman, by the way. So to be honest,
Oh,
I had to redo it again. I would have just caught him a bit faster to come and give me some ideas,
okay.
But he came, and he's very good at maths. So he got the information out of me,
Mhm.
through mathematically, and keeping talking to me. So he got it all out. And my dad didn't help me monetary wise. I need to get myself out that hole, but he
Mhm.
did give me some, things that I needed to do along the way. And so I think it's very important, if you ever find yourself in this. And to be honest, a lot of people are in debt, and let's talk about that a bit later, Eli, because I want to give some good advice for
Mhm.
everybody out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Who are in debt, which is a lot of people, yeah, majority, I would say,
Mhm.
unless they're very good with finances. So let's talk about that. Does it need to be a
We'll
bit?
come back to that. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can have.
So I literally had to dig my way out. So I had to basically coordinate with the local sponsor there to shut the business down, so I wouldn't incur further losses, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So that's the one thing I did. And it was really difficult, because the ex at that point, I was just getting so, like, it was all coming at from all angles. And I was like, why did I do this in the first place? Right. I had invested some money into it. I wasn't in control of it. But now when it came to the debts and everything, it was all on my plate.
Mhm.
So, but you've got to take responsibility. So that's what I did. So that salary that was tax free, that I was earning, went into paying off all those debts
Mm.
and renegotiating with, like, the landlord and suppliers. So that was a good year to 2 years of paying it off. But as a result of that, that launched me into business, really, because from my salary, I was only earning X amount of money, and
Yeah,
I wanted to pay off that debt as fast as possible. It's quite a big chunk
of
if you
course.
think about it. And I was literally living on budget, a budget basically, of
Yeah.
salary of what I could. But what I learned was, the salary only provides a certain amount of money,
Yeah.
every
Uh-huh.
month. It's really good as one way of making an income. But
Mhm.
however, I needed X amount of money to pay off these debts that this business had incurred as
Mhm.
soon as possible. So that made me look at different ways to make money.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I looked at property. So property was, how can I make money from property? Now, there's been an interesting story there, because with the property, I was able to raise funds to initially start purchasing a few units in Dubai. So
Okay.
family and friends, and together with my salary, I could get a mortgage.
Okay.
I would raise a deposit from family and friends contributing to that deposit pot. So we
Mhm.
were able to buy a few units, but I ran into trouble when I got into buying my fifth unit.
Mhm.
It was off plan. So the first time we brought off plan, and something went wrong on the developer's side. So they had misused the money. And that was really another big challenge, because I'm thinking, gosh, I've lost this money that we put into buying this deal.
Yeah.
How am I going to make up for the losses incurred by the friends and family who put the money into a deposit? So So this is very interesting because during this whole journey, and all these things happening,
Yeah,
I think it was not a challenge, but you're finding yourself and where your morals lie along the way, right?
of course,
Yeah,
without with that,
yeah.
if I can just take you back just quickly, um, I can see that you was grown from that point where you suffered when you lost your relationship, and it was a situation where you had your dad came and helped you. To me, that's a significant point because your dad didn't help you financially, and I'm guessing he could have, but he did that for a reason. Now, how do you feel about that situation when he didn't help you? Was that a good point? And if so, how was that?
Mm.
What,
Oh,
how
good.
did that develop you as a person
So
because of that action?
good question. I actually didn't think about it too much because at that point I was just thinking it's my mess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I need to find a way to sort it out. It's not my father's mess or
Mm-hmm.
my family's mess, my mess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what I didn't anticipate was how much I'd learn along the way. So it
Mm-hmm.
was actually in a really weird way, although I was at my lowest at that point and probably a bit depressed because I've never been, because you think about it, someone who's usually a bit carefree, has a good career, suddenly has all this land on my shoulders. Obviously, I have to take responsibility for signing the papers, making those decisions, but it was a lot for one person.
Yeah.
I was a little bit depressed at that point. But this is stuff that you can't really teach
No.
or buy with money. You have to actually go through it.
You have to live it. And I think that's your father knew that at the time. It's not that he didn't want to help you, he wanted to, but he helped you even further by allowing you to go through there. He advised you, and you went through that situation and you became a stronger person because of
Yeah, so it needed a lot of nowadays there's more stuff on mental health. There
it. Yeah.
wasn't We didn't really talk about it much back then, but literally I felt like I was in survival mode. It was one day at a time I was taking everything, but every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to do this at least 3 times a day. I'd be drawing up the finances
Yeah.
to see what debts there was, what have I got coming in, what dates are those lump sums coming in, and what I'm going to do with that, what I was going to do with that money. So that was a daily routine. Now I still do that today, but on our businesses.
Uh-huh.
So I would in the morning I'll have a look every day on the finances, and then I'll set up the to-do list concerning finances.
Okay.
That's been a habit that's carried through even till today. So I know exactly where we are with our businesses.
Okay, so this habit actually is not just good for the property side of it, but it's a good habit just for any business or even from a personal point in your life to keep in touch with what's going on.
Yeah, so even on a personal level, like I have a budget for the household now, right? So
Huh?
I'm looking at what are we using, what do we need every month, what are we bringing in, to our household,
Yeah,
my budget
yeah,
for groceries and household stuff, etc., and what amounts of money I can allocate to invest for my family. Yeah,
yeah.
so yeah, it could be done at different levels, same skill set though.
Wow. Yeah, it's always the simple things that make a significant difference. But okay, all right. So we've got through the journey where you went through some serious pains in the past. Your father helped you and helped you learn a very good lesson. But the debt situation, let's come down to the debt. You realized how to help to pay the debt and how to accumulate that together. Now, you wanted to speak about that. Now, let's speak about this debt situation. How
So,
did it help
oh
you?
no, so people who are not in business, yeah,
Yeah.
um maybe okay, I've got a recommendation. So I've taken, now I'm 40, I'm going to be going to be 42 this year.
Okay.
So I think I've had quite a lot of life and business experience and career experience, right? So
Uh-huh.
there's an American guy called Dave Ramsey,
Uh-huh.
and he preaches a more conservative way to basically become a millionaire. Yeah,
Okay.
better if you start young, but he advocates, and I strongly support his avocation, which is to live a debt-free lifestyle. So that
Okay.
means no credit cards,
Mm-hmm.
no personal loans, no car debt.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually pay off your mortgage as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you live a lifestyle. So it doesn't matter if you're working, yeah, and or you run a business, yeah. But you've got a certain income coming in. But after
Well,
you get rid of those debts, maybe not the mortgage, that usually takes a bit more time to
of
pay off,
course.
but you should be making contributions for overpayment if you can, so
Yeah.
that reduces the amount of interest you literally pay the bank. So you save massively on that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, but once you've mortgage aside, got rid of your debts, you can set up your he advocates for an emergency fund of £1,000, let's say, and then you have 3 to 6 months of your expenses or household expenses put
Okay.
aside. Then that's when you can start and use the magic of compound interest. Yeah.
Okay.
So
How
I
do
do
how
that
does
for.
that work? Let's all hold on. What does that mean to the
Oh,
average person?
so so for example, you
Okay.
and I, we're all that's for the average person. So utilize what the government give you, which is some tax-free strategies, including your ISA, yeah,
Okay.
and your pension. So pension's quite an important one, yeah.
Yeah.
This is all long-term investing, but once you clear those debts that are, credit card taking, I don't know, 20-30% from you every year, yeah, and just getting out that habit, you can allocate your funds towards compound interest. So what does that mean? So that means putting it into, for example, an index or mutual funds that generate 8 to 10% a year over a course of 20 years.
Okay.
And then and why the ISA and the pension is important is because those are sort of tax-free vehicles that the government have put in place. So for example, the ISA, you can contribute up to 20,000 a year, yeah. But most people do it wrong. They put it into a savings account that doesn't even generate that much. Yeah. There are some savings account out there that give like 4 to 5%, but it's only for a limited time, like a year or two.
Okay.
The trick that people are missing is that they need to open a stocks and shares ISA and get that money to work harder for them. Now, I'm not a trader, but I like index and mutual funds.
Okay.
So yeah, so basically it's a collection of different companies you get to choose, yeah.
That's
Different
right.
companies and that perform well, it goes with the market, yeah. And there are going to be ups and downs, but this is long-term investing. So if you keep your money invested in this kind of vehicle, so with the ISA, the interest that you earn, so if it's over 20 years, yeah, 8 to 10% you're earning over that 20 years, it's going to be about collectively, if with your capital interest, about $1 million, but the interest you earn on that is a significant amount over 20 years and tax-free. So that's that's how you can let's say become a millionaire without even having to open a business, and you can stay in your job as well if that's what you enjoy. Or when you get to that point, you might decide to retire early or cut back your hours. So it's definitely, so the younger you start, the better.
Yeah, I mean, this is very clever. I mean, most people will not know about this, and obviously most people don't want you to know about this. So I'm glad you've broken it down quite simply.
Yeah, and for my kids, so you can open a junior ISA that you can contribute. So this would be interesting because I know you have kids. So I don't know whether you're doing it or not, but something to look into, Eli, which is you can open a junior ISA and contribute up to £9,000 a year for the kids.
Okay.
Using the similar method, it gets invested into some sort of fund. Now, if you don't have that amount of money, you don't need to invest that much, by the way. We all need money to live off. But even a couple £100 or £100 a month towards, because the thing about kids, they've got time. So that's amazing. You've got time, to start making that compound interest work for them.
Yeah.
So that's a very powerful tool, especially when they're young.
Yeah, I can see that. God, that's some gold you've given us, without a doubt. And like I said, most people don't have a clue of it. But like I said, you've broken it down really easy. Let's carry on with your journey that you was.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I stopped you at, but go on, carry on with your journey.
Yeah. So what happened? So I was buying property in Dubai at that point, and then it got to the fifth property, and it went a bit pear-shaped because the developer, something happened. They ran off the money. And it was also another one of those situations where you just can't bury your head in the sand. And it was a new situation that had come up. And I knew, because I worked in litigation at that point in Dubai, that it would be fruitless to go through the court system. It was so expensive, everything Arabic. So I would have to need to get it translated into English. So the best thing to do was try and reach some sort of negotiation point with the naughty developer.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit like the Wild Wild West then.
Yeah,
because they weren't supposed to touch those funds. It should have been in a protected escrow account, which all the documents are lined up, but who knows, right? What happens? So I negotiated. I managed to get all the money back, but for 10% that went into lining the pockets of that property manager that running that office. So it was all a bit uncouth, yeah. And that 10% came from my pocket. So
basically, at the time, that was damage limitation.
Yeah, But I was so happy I managed to get that back. But
Yeah.
it was strategy. I had
Mhm.
to get a really good friend of mine, an Arabic speaker, to come in and negotiate for me as well, because they didn't want to deal with anybody who didn't speak Arabic. Let's put
Yeah.
it like that. So it's all very interesting because like that of female, me being a female, not able to speak Arabic,
Uh,
etc. That was very interesting because what it's like outside of the UK. You think that the UK is racist, or
yeah.
there's been and there probably is some elements of racism here and there, but if you go to another country, it's like really bad. Yeah, and sexism as well. But anyway.
My God, the things you've gone through in your life. So that was a really, really difficult time because you've got all your money actually locked up. They won't deal with you because number one, you're a woman and you don't speak the language.
Yeah,
So
and I'm Asian.
and exactly.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with that situation without pulling your hair out?
So you gotta have a think. Okay, if this is not working, what will work? So who will they speak to? They only need an Arabic speaker. I got a friend in who was her parents are quite well known, like very in the Arabic community. So it was this lady. Yeah.
Okay.
They brought her in. If that didn't work, I would have had to ask her to ask her dad for help, but I didn't want to do that. So yeah, we managed to do some negotiations. So there was a loss though, as I said, 10%. That came from my pocket. So one of the things that this is when it's interesting because I was developing my character then, right? I didn't know what sort of person I was, but you get to know yourself when you get into these situations, which is, I think it's very important to make sure that the people that have invested money with you, for example, don't lose out, even if your deal doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because like the friend and family's money, I know that they work very hard to save up these little
Yeah.
pot money.
Of
Yeah.
course.
So, but it's ultimately a personality trait. Yeah. But it's good to be
Yeah.
a bit more like that, if that makes sense, without sounding too preachy.
Yeah. How did that make you feel, knowing that your family's money was in there? That must have made it quite nervous for you.
It knocked my confidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so I stopped buying property. It knocked my confidence. I was like,
Okay.
I don't want to keep raising these deposit amounts. It's still quite a chunky amount. And also my salary could only take me so far in terms of getting a mortgage. Yeah, they don't look at your rental income and things like that at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. Although they do that in England, it's slightly different systems. Yeah. So that's when I started to look at the subleasing model. And I was like, okay. So in Dubai, then I did the subleasing model where it was room sharing. So it's known as HMOs in England. And that really worked very, very well. I could get a £2,000 net profit in from each unit. How do I say this? I not built up, but I structured.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that really replaced, and the startup cost is not as big because it's not like we're buying a property.
Yeah.
The startup cost to rent a property and, segregate the space and get it ready for rental was, and the running cost was, it was £2,000 was a great return for the deposit amount. Sorry, the startup cost even. So I was managed to get a few of that in, I think 5 or 6 units, I remember, and that already had replaced my salary, my salary by then. So then it was a question of, do I stay in my job? Do I leave my job? What do I do? So the good thing about money, let's say, yeah, is that it gives you choices,
Okay.
right? And it depends on how you make those choices.
Or opportunities. Gives you great
opportunities. Yes. Yeah. So you have more freedom, right? Because but it doesn't account for everything, but it makes life easier. Yeah. But the foundations need to be in place. For example, who are you as a person?
Yeah.
What's your moral compass? What matters to you?
Yeah.
I think this is a discovery along the way. You won't know the start until you're faced with difficult situations.
Yeah, Leslie, no, Leslie, you're totally right. Because I was just thinking to myself, you went from one crisis to another, but still you had the resilience to get over those crises. And as we spoke earlier on about the blueprint, you can give the blueprint for people, but that's not necessarily what's going to make them successful. What's going to make them successful is actually going through the process and being resilient. And you always seem to go from one stage to another, from a crisis to another, which has now brought you to the subleasing. side of things. Now, if you hadn't gone through those other crises, you wouldn't have learned, actually, this is for me, this subleasing and structuring my money and etc. is the best way to do it, because I've already been burnt, right? I've already gone through that. So did you notice that you, at this point when you started subleasing, is that you were, oh, actually, I've gone through a lot of crap, basically, and actually I've become stronger due to it? Did you feel that you was growing as a person and you were making the right decisions because of what you've gone through in the past? How did you feel?
That's a very good question. To be honest, I probably didn't think too much because I was on a bit of, bit
Yeah.
of a roll.
Roller coaster.
Yeah, roller coaster roll. So I probably didn't really think too much about it, but you reflect on it, and obviously all these things happen for a reason, and nobody can just, unless you had, unless you get mentored by a very successful, like let's say Donald Trump's your dad, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure you would put all the bricks in place for you to become a successful individual, right?
right.
Yeah, but I think in life, a lot of things you need to learn. Now the problem is some people get hit and they don't get up
Yeah, that's right.
again, yeah, and it's very easy to do that. I think in my case, I've just have a very strong personality and I don't quit. So if something's not working, we think of, okay, what will work? And if something is losing, we think of what can we do to cut our losses?
Okay.
Yeah, most things are negotiable at the end of the day. So
All right.
it's find a best solution. So even if you are losing,
Uh-huh.
how are you going to lose the least? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
so you've always had this stubborn trait within you. So what is this belief system that you have? What's the underlying thing? Let's forget about business and etc. But there's something underneath that always spurs you to be stronger. Now, we know that you've got this stubborn trait with you. That's a natural trait. Do you have some kind of faith, some kind of religion? Is there a third party in the background that keeps you strong? What is it that's always that thread that's underlining when you're going through your life, going from one strength to another?
good question. I think it's three things. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because since then I have thought about things, but I think it's three things. One is obviously my family, the background. So in my family, my grandparents came from China originally, but they had to flee during the Japanese occupation, and obviously, and they also didn't want to be under communist rule. Now we're very close with my grandparents are not around now, but we were very close with them when we were growing up. So they used to tell us about their journey. So on my mum's side, my granddad fought against Japanese, and then they had the civil war within China, right, where there were
Yeah.
political parties, and he didn't want to fight anybody who was Chinese, so he fled from China to Hong Kong, and then ended up in Taiwan. So my parents, my mum and her side of the family, her siblings were all born in Taiwan with my grandmother, and then he came to the UK in the late 60s. Yeah, to work as a chef in Chinatown. He was a noodle master. So he'd seen a lot in his life. And so I had my grandma, yeah. And so my mum and her family, her siblings, came to England in London in the late 60s. And they obviously, life was not straightforward for them as well, but they've always been in business because they weren't educated.
Yeah.
That makes sense, yeah. And on my dad's side, so my dad also is from Taiwan originally. So he was a superstar basketballer.
Oh,
So
was he?
he was, but his father, so my granddad on that side was an army in the general, but was anti-communism. So they went to Taiwan, yeah. So
My
he
God.
had a tough upbringing.
Yeah.
My dad and his twin brother, they all played professional basketballer in Taiwan, though. So they're not
Okay.
they're a bit over 6 foot, but they're not giants compared to standards. So there's that family background there, yeah. In terms of and my dad, when he came, so my dad's been a big inspiration as well. So family on my mum's side, that story from grandparents. So my dad's story is very interesting. So his mum her family was very wealthy landowners in China.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously, and that obviously got all taken away from them. But because she got married to my granddad, who was a general on the opposing Communist Party, then they fled to Taiwan. So literally, she fled with a big chest of gold. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she had a very interesting journey, but all that money got lost because they didn't know how to invest.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they entrusted that money. I think a mining business,
Okay.
and a hotel business is what they invested in, but it all went.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of family history there, and what a fool I would be if I didn't listen to these
Exactly.
stories from their grandparents and take heed of that. But anyway, so grandparent stories, there a lot there. It's
Yeah.
very too much to cover in a podcast. If it's of any interest when I see you, I'll be more than happy to
Oh,
elaborate
I definitely
on
want to
these
listen to
stories.
that.
But literally, their stories when they were escaping from the communist regime was like pretty horrendous, on both sides.
Yeah.
Nan had it easier because she had lots of money there, and
Yeah.
the general husband, that had a little army, so they could cross over. My mum's side was really tough. They had to live off whatever they could find in the mountains. Because they took the walking route, a very
Yeah.
long route. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On my dad's side, so he was a superstar basketball in Taiwan, very popular with all the ladies, had lots of opportunities. He decided to come to UK and different life. He found out that he could not live with his basketball skills in this country. So what he did instead, which was very humbling, which is that he went and started scrubbing, was a human dishwasher in Chinatown.
Okay.
But my dad's very clever, so he worked his way up to being a head chef like very fast within a few years. Yeah. And started his own business. And he failed in his first two businesses. Yeah, but he kept going. But I as a child, I witnessed both my parents work very, very hard. So their first successful business and restaurant was in Cambridge, where we live as a family.
Okay.
Yeah. And we were so poor at that point, Eli. So I was 3 when they started this venture. And I have such vivid memories that we slept in the basement. So although it's not obviously council health and safety worthy, but that's where we stayed in the basement for a few months until they got the restaurant to make money, and then they could afford to move us out I remember I had the best times when I was in the restaurant, although it was the basement, but we were so poor that we didn't have a bed. I used to put the wooden tables together to make the dining tables to make a makeshift bed, etc. So I remember those hardships. So to be honest, I've been given an education, by my parents. They pay for it all.
Yeah.
So these challenges that I ran through, although they were very difficult, who am I to moan and complain about it when my family have that history there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I just interlude just right there and then? So now listening to your story, where your strength really comes from, because you have a comparison, you understand from a child, and what it takes to become successful, even though you was happy in those times when it was really difficult. So because you were brought up with those values and those experiences, I suppose that's one of the things that have helped you be resilient coming to this point.
Yeah, so I've talked about family, talked about dad.
Yeah.
His story was amazing, built him up through hard work and determination. Now, what makes my dad stand out is what he passed on to me, and I've been able to benefit from, was that competitive sporting mindset.
Okay, break it down in layman terms, please.
Yeah, so my dad used to give me and my brother training, like get us up early in the morning to go running around the park and run around trees and do, physical activity.
What, military style? That's terrible.
I know. Because we make a jump around tree trunks and stuff. But what he was really doing was building up our mindset. So I've always, throughout when I was young, maybe not so much now, been into competitive sports. I think that is a game changer, because if you're of that sort of sporting mindset, you get knocked down, but what am I going to do to build, just because I got knocked down is not the end of the world, right? Even though everything's literally crashing down, what else can I do? So I think that's really helped. Now, the problem is not everybody has this sort of mindset. And I know, for example, my brother's mindset is a bit different from mine. Because he didn't go, so we had this thing in our family as well, because of the older generation, that the in our culture that they prefer boys over girls as well. So that lit up more of a fire in my belly too, whereas my brother didn't have that. However, I think that my mindset in terms of competitiveness and entrepreneurship is more stronger as a result. So these things.
So I suppose with the situation, which is we know in China, is that boys are are preferred over girls.
Yeah,
You have to have that
now, but
yeah, I know that, but it's a situation that you have to fight so much more to get anything in life in any part of order. And I suppose that's what's helped you, as well as the mindset with your father getting you up early in the morning doing A, B, and C. But it's like, no, I'm just as good as my brother, or I'm just as good as whatever, and that's put you through that sequential order, being better.
Like my thing was, well, my nan, she had a wealthy family, but they never gave her education, so she couldn't read very well, you know.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, like, the question was in my head was, why can't I? You know, there's nothing holding you back, like, especially if you're privileged enough to be born in a country like the UK.
Yeah.
You know, compared to the rest of the world, come on. Like, a lot of things that people moan about, if you really think about it, could, you know, really, you know, sorry to say this, and this is just a very general sweeping comment, yeah, but it's a lot of it's first world problems. When you're in, you know, countries that are not so fortunate, where the government's not there to support you, they don't have pensions to give you when you reach retirement age, or they don't give you universal credit.
Totally.
As everything is on you, it changes the way you are.
You see things.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, you're totally right. Especially when you travel, you see all these issues when you travel the world. Like, for instance, when I first traveled when I was young, I think when I was 18, I went abroad. And it was a situation where I thought to myself, and I always complained about the transport in London. I said, the transport is just terrible. It's always late. It's always this. But when I went abroad, I thought, oh, my God, the transport is amazing. When you have a different perspective, when you go out of your comfort zone or somewhere else, then it makes sense. And you're totally right. In the UK, we are blessed to have so many opportunities compared to the rest of the world, and we take it for granted.
Yes, we are. So I would say, if anybody's looking, well, I don't know, I think mindset is so important. Before you look into getting to anything, you need to make that stronger. Now, having all these bad experiences, like, I'm the type of person, my cup is always half full, you know, and you've got to know what your skills are, what you're developing. So one of my skills, I would say, like, I've always had it, is that I'm good with people. I think people generally find me easy to connect with. And if I need help, I'll always ask for help. As well.
And that's very important. It's actually, I will say this for the listeners, it's just as important to ask for help as it is to give help. Because the thing is, if you leave your ego at home, you can go further by saying, hey, I don't really have a clue at the moment. Could you put me in the right? And that's how you grow, right? Would you agree, Leslie?
Yeah, I think definitely ego and pride is something that holds a lot of people back from different aspects of their lives. It's okay for you to not know about something. Are you an expert in it? No, I think it's okay to be honest about it. And I also think that it's okay to say sorry when you're sorry. That applies not to business, but in relationships with your family members. You'll find that even I've learned a lot, and I'll tell you, I've had some recent challenges as well, Eli. So you don't know about this because I haven't told anybody apart from my family members, but publicly as well. But when you become more humble, or have a slightly different outlook on things as well, the ego and pride thing really doesn't serve you at all, I find. Even if you are right, what's the point of and my husband will disagree with me because he's got a bit more bravado in that sense, but what's the point of maintaining that point if it ruins a family relationship? For example, you'll find that your node gets more narrow. Whereas if you're okay, you generally feel okay to say sorry, or let's move on, but we have differences, but I still love you. You have a more bigger road, or lowering that pride and ego. But I think it's obviously something that a lot of alpha males have, right?
No, totally. No, exactly. And ego is what stops us from going forward. I mean, I'm a Buddhist myself, so everything belongs within us.
I was at the True Buddha Temple yesterday.
Oh, was you?
In London. My grandparents are placed there.
Okay. So it's a situation that we take responsibility for us. So, and ego is what we must let go of. And it does, it just restricts you when it comes to ego, because you can't move forward, right? Because you're always blaming somebody else. And because it's somebody else's fault, then you have no way of changing the situation from that mindset. And I think it's a limiting mindset.
I think so too, but you're holding on to something
Yeah.
like anger, or if you want validation, I think. I think you have to develop the relationship you have with yourself. That's more important. Now, let me tell you a little, because we're on a, well, I think we're more on a journey about talking about challenges more than anything.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. So my most recent challenge only happened in mid-November, so not too long ago. I was diagnosed with rectal cancer. So you didn't know that I was ill.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's all right. So I'm still recovering at the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's been a bit of a crazy journey, because I started my chemo session. So I was stage 3 going on stage 4. So I started my chemo on the 18th of December, and then I had a major surgery because the chemo reacted very well, but it perforated the tumor in my bowel. So I went into sepsis shock. So I went in for a major surgery, and they cut the tumor out. So there's an amazing thing that happened. So they cut the tumor out, but I'm on chemo still at the moment, so that it gets rid of everything. And I'm hoping to be done in June. So it's been a bit of a journey that I've been on a spiritually more than anything, having to reorganize my life a little bit.
All right, Leslie, let's deal with that, because that's going to help a lot of people. Because like I said, you go through one crisis to another, and you're not the only one that does that. When you were told this, how did you feel?
Very lost, really, because at that point I wasn't sure what the treatment plan looked like. And I would recommend anybody here to go and get a private medical insurance as well, because something as you do when you're responsible for yourself and you're an entrepreneur is that you give yourself more choices, right?
Yes, that's right.
It's really weird how things happen, but if you're Buddhist, you'd understand certain things are supposed to happen in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
So I was really concerned, because obviously I've got 2 young children. I've got one who's turned 2 a few months ago, and another one who's turning 5 soon.
Wow. Yeah. Same here. I've got a 2-year-old just turned 2. All right, go on. This is important.
But I was concerned about them, but they were my number 2 worry. My number 1 worry was my parents, because culturally and how I feel about them is, if I was to go, they would suffer a lot, right? They're losing a child. When you have a child, you kind of sort of understand how that feels even more. So they were my number 1 concern. My number 2 concern were my children. However, I knew that I'd built up a bit of a wealth nest for them, you know, and I knew that they would be loved by my family as well.
Yes.
So they were okay.
That was peace of mind.
Hands, yeah. But what was going through my head was, apart from it being a bit stressful, I was glad I had my critical illness insurance in place. So these are things that I put in place: life insurance, critical illness insurance. Like during COVID, I didn't actually think I really needed to use it so soon, but it was, obviously it's great, because there was another chunk of money that came out of me being ill. Although, you know, I guess things happen, and you should, everyone, or if I was younger, I would have not done the things that I put in place now, because I'm a bit older, right? So I recommend anybody to always have your insurances in place, because it does help. Yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah. But my mindset was, okay, I've got these 2 worries that I have. However, who am I to determine how long I'm going to be on this earth for? We all have to go.
Yes.
Point, right? I just don't know how much time I've got. So I went into really a bit of an overdrive to put my bucket list in place on what I needed to get in place before I go. And so this is before I had that big operation. The tumor got taken out. As a result of that. So I only found out afterwards that I had a 50-50 chance, which I didn't know.
Oh my God.
I know, so I literally nearly died over Christmas, but I survived, yeah.
Right.
And the chemo treatment, so I've had an IV chemo treatment that's just ended recently. That was pretty tough.
What is an IV chemo treatment?
So basically, apart from taking tablets, depending on the type of cancer you have, they'll put you, it's a catheter, they'll put it in your arm. In my case, sometimes they might put a pick on you, which is permanent.
Yeah.
So that treatment's easier. But I had it go through my arm because I only needed to get 3 months worth of it.
Okay.
It was really, it's a poison. So the one that I was on is called I can't remember the name now. Chemo brain.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Something. No, I can't even remember it. Yeah, but
Okay. Cool.
it's a pretty toxic sort of chemo treatment.
Okay.
And I would be in bed for 2 weeks afterwards, I would say, until I recovered. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was really tough. Now I'm just on tablets.
All right.
But that's a more recent thing. And how to manage everything has been without the support of my family, I wouldn't have been able to do it because my kids are very full on. They're two very energetic boys at the moment.
Okay.
I'm only just getting into dealing with them this half term, really,
Mm.
because being well enough really to be with them more, have them with me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I've been recovering at my mum's house, but I live down the road from her, so literally it's 2-minute walk between the houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the mindset thing has been, very
It's
strong.
what got you through. I mean, obviously, this is another crisis thing that's getting you through, and having that support
Yeah.
system is really good too.
Yeah, absolutely. So having support, having the things in place that you never, like the insurances that you never thought you were going to really use, but that's been very helpful. Like having private medical insurance as well I got the diagnosis through the GP. Yeah.
Yeah.
But because the treatment plan was a little bit slow getting started, I had the option of going private. That
Yeah.
was by the insurance, and that's what I did. And thank goodness I did that because I, had a good surgeon, a very good surgeon,
Yeah.
who dealt with my tumor.
Yeah.
I don't know if I went to somewhere else whether they would cut it out. I might still have it, and they'd be doing
Yeah.
all the radiotherapy as well and the chemo treatments to shrink it down, etc. But yeah, that has changed my life. I've got like a bowel bag now.
Okay.
My bowel, so I've got a stoma bag. Yeah.
Okay.
That will all be my bowel can be sewn back in, but that's another operation which I think I'll do early next year.
Okay.
But it does change your perspective on things and how you approach life. This is more of a spiritual thing now.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
Yeah,
spiritual.
take us on that journey. So, what perspectives has been changed at
So
the moment?
when I was fighting, so this is when I was during my operation.
Yeah.
I was the things that made me that I said that I would sort out when I came if I got the opportunity to come back. Yeah,
Okay.
was some of the relationships because of pride and ego.
Okay.
Family relationships where I might have upset a family member.
Okay.
In this particular instance, my aunties, two aunties and a cousin, let's say. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That I was going to go back and remedy. Yeah, and it wasn't that I changed my stance or anything in terms of my position, but it was that I felt sorry that I made them angry.
Okay.
Or upset them or made them sad. So the first thing I did was to rectify that. Yeah. When I was going through that stage, it wasn't about how much money I made in this lifetime, how successful I am. It was
Yeah.
about relationships
Yeah.
that I had with my family members, what felt at peace and what didn't. So you kind of give yourself judgment day, hey, Eli.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So
Yeah.
I got the opportunity to come back. So the first thing I did was remedy those relationships. And thank God I did, because one of the aunties was going through a horrible financial time. She got herself on a horrible bridging loan and
Yeah.
was really struggling to come off it. And it was a big stress for her. So I was dealing with that when I was very ill, recovering. Yeah, but it brought me such peace of mind that she's, on the road out from that, and that's not going to cause her any stress.
Yeah.
The ego and pride thing we talked about was, when you don't, I think it's just having more awareness about yourself and your actions. But
Yeah.
sometimes things are not that important, right?
Well,
Your viewpoint, no one else has to accept that, and vice versa, right? It's just,
totally. Totally. Well, I like I said, right, you've gone through this situation where it puts things in perspective, what really matters. So it's another thing that's riveted you to the center and made you think, right, okay, I'm successful in A, B, and C way, but what really matters is, and you've dealt with it.
yeah. Yes. And what I tell, so these are the things that have changed. I only work 2 hours a day now, max.
Okay.
Yeah. In the mornings. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Ideally, the rest of my time is spent with cultivating relationships with my family members.
Okay.
Yeah. and spending much time with my children. So you obviously you're my friend on Facebook. You see, I don't post everything, but I post like what
Of
we've
course.
been up to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been my shift. I think what happens is that when you get onto the route to especially entrepreneurship, or sometimes it might just happen because you made a big purchase, for example, a house, a car, right?
Yeah.
That you've got more debt that you want to pay off.
Yeah.
You can become a workaholic. I was a bit of a workaholic because I was in business. So I'd be working all the time. But now it's what I've done is become more efficient and packed what I need to do in those 2 hours.
Okay.
And if certain things don't fit my criteria in terms of what I do in my time, I just say no.
Actually, that's a good way of seeing it, because I've spoken to someone else who actually has works 4 hours of the day, and he's far more efficient compared to someone that works 8 hours a day. And even in those 4 hours, they get far more done. So by restricting yourself, it does make you more focused.
Yeah.
You know, without a
It's
doubt.
more focused on what you want to do,
Yeah.
your etc. And it's made me focus on my family life a bit more, because I've retired in a nice way the nanny we were using as well.
Okay.
There's a focus on me to make sure that my family eat well, because
Yeah.
during the time I've been off ill, it's been delivery. My husband doesn't cook, but he should learn how to do it.
There's MP. He should.
Yeah,
Husband, if you're
because it
listening
really,
now, you've heard it from here. You should learn how to cook.
yeah, because it's more nutritious for the
Yes, it is.
family, and you can have a bit more hold over your budget as well. So what really is important, and it might be different for everyone else, yeah, which is what are you going to prioritize? So I've spent a lot of time, on business, on how to make money, although that's still important, but it's not the most important anymore. Because you have a reflection on, oh, am I sacrificing this time whereas I could spend it with my family? Now, you might know the story, by the way, but it's about a fisherman who was just happy, like, selling a few fishes a day. And he
Okay.
came across an American, and the American was very inquisitive and was asking, how much do you earn from selling your fish every day? And he was like, oh, I can help you build it into a massive business. We can get a business loan now, and then you can have this massive shipping empire. So the fisherman asked him, so what do I get out of all this? Well, and the American replies to him, well, you can make millions after you sell your business, and then you get to spend your time with your family, and enjoy more time with them. And the fisherman was like, oh, but I already have that now. Because he only sells a couple of fish a day, but he spends the rest of his time chilling with his friends and family and having meals together. So I think that's quite an important story to remember.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, that's man.
You're doing all of this for the same result.
Yeah.
It's up to you to come up with what matters to you. So for me, it's definitely relationships. And I also promised, I guess it's promised to myself at the end of the day, that if I was able to come back, that I would help more people, but in different, it's like different ways to how I did before.
So let's talk about that. So obviously you want to impact people within their lives. How have you got a plan how to do that? Have you got some
not a plan. There are some sort of charities that I support, some charities I support. And if I see someone in need as well, would be more happy to help them find a solution. But for me, I think it's, apart from doing that, it's all very personal at the end of the day. There's not a strategy in place. It's whatever comes my way. I will try my best to, help. So the main thing is someone is reaching out for help. The only difference is if they're reaching out help about a business or something, because that will, but they're reaching out for help about something else is not a problem. Yeah, then I would definitely help if I can. Yeah. So far, because I haven't been that mobile because of my illness, there's been more sort of financially, how can I support?
Yes.
Cause, but if I had to have a strategy, it would be about this. So my grandfather on my dad's side, so the general, asked his children this question before: do you want to be the type of person that 100 people look after and support you, or you want to be the type of person that supports 100 people and looks after 100 people? So when my granddad asked that to his 5 sons, my dad's the youngest, all of them was replying the first one. They wanted to be looked after by 100 people. Naturally, you would, right? My dad was the only one that answered he would want to look after 100 people. Now, that is something that I've been thinking about a lot. What I want to do is be the one that supports those people that are looking after 100 people somewhere, because I
Mm.
think at the end of the day, my skills lie in, I'm a strategist. So my skills lie better supporting those that are
Mm.
capable of looking after 100 people or whatever it is, or animals, yeah, etc.
And effectively, you have a bigger reach by doing so.
Yeah, I can help more people
Yeah.
essentially. So that's something I've been asking myself, and that's my answer of what I would like to do.
I'll tell you, you're doing some amazing things. You've gone through so many crises, and you're going through one right now, which is it's not going to stop here at all. So things are going to still carry on. But again, what I'm going to say to the listeners, it's not about the blueprint of being successful. You know how to make money, A, B, and C, but it does come down to faith, character. As you can see, Leslie here is working and growing herself and spiritually strong. Can I ask you, Leslie, from a spiritual point of view, is there a religion that's pushing you through also? Is there a faith system, or is it just knowing what's right and what's wrong?
Oh gosh, it's a very interesting question. So I grew up like I believe in Christianity, yeah.
Hmm.
However, and I've been exposed to different faiths, yeah. So there's not a wrong or right religion,
Hmm.
yeah. I believe in the way of life. So going through this experience, I think it's just my spirituality. I've got certain foundations. It's very clear what is wrong, what is right, you know.
Hmm.
I'm not going to spend too much time debating about something that has no impact.
Yeah.
I'd rather be out there supporting people that can make an impact, you know.
Hmm.
But it is, you got to question why we're here.
Hmm.
You have to question that, right? Why are we here on Earth?
Hmm.
Yeah. I believe that there is life after this, after life on Earth.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It doesn't just stop here. But we're obviously here for a reason. And now one of the reasons is because of the journey we're on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another reason I think is we've got to love and care for the other, human beings and animals and other beings whilst we're here. That's more of a Buddhist point, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, but I think all religion, if they're interpreted in the right way, those are the main, focus points, right?
Yeah.
So I think I spent a good 40 years focusing on me, developing myself. So the next, my family, my kids will be fine because of the foundations we have, obviously, when you're being an entrepreneur, you sacrifice a lot as well. It gets unspoken of the time you spent, the brain energy you put into, your businesses or, making money, etc. But for the rest of my life, whilst I'm here, I want to focus on other people making a difference, but in the background more than anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when it comes to supporting people, I know you're going to support people personally. Are you going to, you've got the property thing under wraps. Are you are you doing some kind of courses or some kind of mentorship or anything like that when it comes to that?
Very good question. So I used to do property mentoring, but I came to the conclusion when I was going through all this, I really don't enjoy it.
Okay.
And I don't enjoy it because I think how I want to go about helping people should not be about just making money,
Hmm.
That's a journey everybody needs to go on. And it's really hard being a mentor because not everyone is successful as well. There are students that are and some that aren't, but
Yeah.
it comes down to the mindset. And that's not something that can be taught in a few months, I
Yeah.
would say. Yeah,
Yeah.
something that's constantly developing. But I would say that Dave Ramsey, okay, he's got some books you could get off Amazon. I
Uh-huh.
think is a more conservative approach, but I think it's if I was to advise anybody to, who wants to earn more money, invest and start that sort of financial journey, it's a really good one, nice and safe, I would say, to get rid of your debts and then start investing into something that'll give you compound interest,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
Now, if I had started that when I was much younger, then things would be even more different now.
Yeah.
But my goal point, for example, one of the charities I'm involved in involves feeding derelict children villages, yeah, in India
Uh-huh.
and old people. So I donate to that. And what they've done, which is very interesting because it's on a farm, is that they have been growing their own produce as a result of the donations so they can feed more people.
Wow.
So, it's like things like that. It's a bit like the compound interest effect.
A bit
So
like teach a man to fish, right?
Yeah, so those are the things where I believe my time would be better spent, or my outreach, or my money, if I'm donating, it would have a bigger impact.
Mm.
Yeah, but not so much on the business side. I think there are other property mentors and who are much better than me. I can dedicate that time, but my time's very, I see it's very, you know, everyone's time is precious, but my time, I've allocated it to certain things, and I'm going to stick with that for now.
So what do you still see? What's your journey for the next year? Because you said obviously you've got potentially another operation when it comes to the cancer in a year's time. So, what do you see? You've already said you're doing 2 hours a day, and you're happy with that, and it's working for you. Spending time with the kids. You got anything else happening in the next year, or you're just going to take it as it comes?
Business,
While
business as usual. You'd be so. It's what's very interesting in when you give back. You know, very interesting the opportunities that come your way. I've been
okay,
given some amazing opportunities recently that have just come out of the blue,
okay,
and I don't need to do too much, which is a great thing. So you have to sort of design your life and what you want to get involved with or not, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is due to because you have been given opportunities to other people. You've always been quite a helpful person, and now people are willing and want to give you opportunities, which has put you in a good stead at the moment.
Yeah, I guess so. I'll give you an example.
Hmm.
So one of my business contacts really needed a loan, yeah,
Okay.
and he like reached out to me last minute, and I had this money available just sitting around.
Uh-huh.
So I agreed, yeah, give it to him. I didn't even look at the papers or what too much of what he was investing. It was like lost in my junk box, but I believed him as a person. Known him for some time, so that went over to him, and I'm going to be paid like double of what I've put in.
Okay.
Just 3 months, so it's really good. But also as a result, he's going to give me an equity share, which I didn't ask for. So, and it's actually turned out to be quite a big and planet saving type of business, which is really cool. So it's just those sort of things. That opportunities come up, but when
Mm.
you least expect it to. But by answering a call for help, people give things to you that you don't ask for as well. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's very interesting.
No, I get that. And the reason why I brought that previous question is because I think the power of just wanting to help, generally wanting to help people from your heart, holds great power. It's two reasons. Number one is there are lots of people that could do with help. And why wouldn't you want to help your fellow man? That's number one. But number two, when you then need help, naturally people know because you help them from your heart, you will get the help yourself.
Yeah. And I've got something else to share with you, my Buddhist friend.
Well, come on. Tell me,
A
Leslie.
bit of karma.
Yeah.
So I was so start of half term, we went to the Cotswold for a week, yeah. I
Uh-huh.
got two pugs. They've been with me since they're about a month old, a white one and a black one, salt
Okay.
and pepper, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we went on a walk at 7 a.m. My brother-in-law and my brother. We brought two of the kids with us, yeah, in prams.
Uh-huh.
So my brother-in-law was walking the two dogs. But anyway, they went to the park, which was opposite a small road. We were on the other side of that road, and I was calling my brother-in-law, tell him we're gonna go straight. And they can catch up later after dogs had a good run around.
Okay.
But they heard my voice. They came running out of that park, and the white one got hit by a car.
Oh my
I
God.
was all in front of me, and I was in bits.
I
Like,
can
I
imagine.
can't describe how it felt. But it was like the Matrix, like fast and slow motion all at the same time. And
Okay.
I was hysterical because she was like my kid, the white one, Salt. Um, and I thought that was the end of it because I saw her get hit, saw the thump, saw
Mhm.
her like literally get bounced and sort of
Oh,
roll like in the air, and
really
then
dramatic.
yeah, and then I was running towards her on the road because I didn't know, like, because there were cars in the way, so I couldn't see what happened to her. But I was expecting the worst. But then
Yeah.
I saw her running towards me, and I was in tears, because I was sure something was broken, or
Yeah.
something. It was that bad, that thud and the yelp I heard, and so did my brother. My brother-in-law everyone's in shock. I think that, and my brother-in-law was in shock seeing my reaction as well,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she's like my child. So and I had a good not so good. I had a good man that drove past, saw this, stopped, and offered me a lift to the vets because he's local. He
Okay.
jumped into his car. He was a pilot or something, and he tried to make small talk, but it was all like, my little dog, there was like blood on me, so I thought she was bleeding from the mouth or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like making all these like yelping noises. I thought she was like, really in pain. So I cried all the way in that car, got to the vets, and she got seen to immediately. And I was in bits in the waiting room, just waiting for her. So wishing it could be me. I was like, just going through this cancer, just takes some more, takes more years off my life, whatever, as long as she doesn't
Mhm.
suffer. Yeah, but she came out like nothing broken, just a few grazes and a bit of bruising. How lucky was she?
My God, especially when you heard the big whack and then the bounce.
Yeah. So what I didn't tell you was before we went on this trip,
Yeah.
that so it started on Monday. That weekend, I had made a big donation to save a dog in Dubai that was dumped in a desert.
Hmm.
And she needed urgent medical attention. And it's not something that I advertise, this is what I'm doing. But I think because of that and that dog, which is called Millie, made it, that
Uh-huh.
karma came back to save my salt.
Can I just ask, what is it with dog owners that see them as children? Why is it that you see dogs? I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Do you have a dog or a pet?
I do. I have a dog and I
Yeah.
have a cat. I have both. So I'm asking you, what makes it so? Why are we dog owners so passionate and we see them as children? What is it?
So before, as a dog owner, I wouldn't have seen a dog as a child,
Yeah.
but I think it's ultimately it's a living thing. So you bond with that and you're responsible for that life
Yeah.
as well. My soul came running towards me even after she was hit,
Uh-huh.
and I was thinking that even if she wasn't with us, her spirit would still be coming towards me.
Yes.
That's how it felt. But it's because ultimately, if they're part of your family, they're part of your family.
Mm.
As a mother or a father, that role, whether it goes to my children or my pets, is still the same loving heart that I give them. As I said, that I would happily have taken that hit
Yeah.
and not see her get hit.
I see. I see. I get that.
Yeah, but so important that so I strongly believe it was what I did and it
Yeah.
saved her life. Yeah, but that's just my spiritual beliefs there.
Well, Leslie, look, you've got such a beautiful heart. We've just skimmed over your journey going way back in the days.
It's not always beautiful though,
No,
Eli. Like being
no.
an entrepreneur, I have a feisty temper.
Oh,
Nowadays,
oh, tell me. Oh, you didn't tell me that one. Now, come on, tell me.
how do we get things done in a third world, well, not third world country, but in
So where's
Dubai, we
this
don't have some
temper
sort
coming
of
from, Leslie? Tell us more.
comes from I think it comes from my dad, right? So I get things done,
Okay,
It's not always so calm. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I like to get things done fast. So I'm always my how I used to work anyway was always fast. Yeah.
Uh-huh,
Yeah. I try not to lose my temper, but it really depends. You're in property business, so dealing with people, different people all the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. So try to get things move along. But ultimately you've got to conserve that energy. Try not to get so angry.
So hold on a minute. So you're a person that lacks a bit of impatience.
Absolutely, I'm not patient, yeah.
Yeah, you're not patient at all. Yeah,
If
exactly.
I want to get something done, or I've got a vision of how I want it to be done, that's how we're going.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I'm like that also. I had a business partner that said, "God, you're not patient at all." I said, "Look, listen, it's very simple. You want to go from A to Z, and why can't you do that?" So I
I
get it.
I honestly think that's an entrepreneur trait, we don't wait around,
Yeah.
otherwise it doesn't suit you, this path, and it doesn't mean that, um, the path of entrepreneur is not for everyone, it's actually pretty tough,
Mm,
and taking risks, you've gotta have a big appetite for risk, yeah?
mm, mm.
Is not for everyone as well. So I think I just want to remind everybody that having a job is not so bad unless you absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
But we follow Dave Ramsey's rules to get out of debt essentially in every way.
Okay.
But in every way so that you can have a roof over your head and you're still investing for your future.
Hmm.
Well, go and do something that you really enjoy. Don't get don't stay in a job just because it pays you X amount. Have an exit plan for that and go and do something that you really enjoy where you can make a difference.
Yeah, and to me that makes uh massive sense. And the reason being is, so you're going to do a job for about 8 hours, 10, some people work 12 hours. That's most of your waking day. And if you're unhappy for most of your waking day, it doesn't make sense, developing that mindset of pain, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really made me very happy, part of the spiritual journey, is helping others and giving back. I hope it doesn't sound too cliche because not too preachy. When you go about doing it, you don't tell any other people about it. But seeing something like that miraculous happen to my salt, which happened like in front of me, and it also made me think how fragile life is. Everything you have or built can be just taken away.
Yeah.
In that instant, it just made me appreciate everything so much more. Yeah, so if you want to do something, go and do it. Don't just hang around. Go and action it. Yeah. And nothing's always going to be plain sailing. It's going to be some bumps along the way, but just deal with it as it comes. Right. Yeah.
And I suppose don't try to make things before you start things. Don't try and make it perfect before you start. Just
take the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just take the first step.
Perfect. And on that note, Lesley, let us end, because you've already given us so much insight to your life, so much gold too, and just showing people there is a process to life. It's all part of a journey to become a better you, and you're still going through that journey. And Lesley, I just want to say thank you for spending the time with me and us at the same time. Is there any way that people can contact you at all? Is there
you can add me on Facebook if you want, or Instagram. If it helps. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'll do is just to say to everybody, I'll put Lesley's details down below, and just have a look. If you need to contact her, she's very inspirational, not only from the point of view of business, but from the point of view of mindset, which is far more important. She has a beautiful mindset. So, if you want to know about more of the mindset, and you believe you need to talk about more about that or find more, you can always contact Lesley, and you will be going in the right direction. Lesley, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Eli.
Okay, I appreciate it, and speak to you soon. Take care.
All right, bye.
Sayonara.